This is the FlipNerd.com Expert Real Estate Investing Show, the show for real estate investors, whether you're a veteran or brand new. I'm your host, Mike Hambright, and each week I bring you a new expert guest that will share their knowledge and lessons with you. If you're excited about real estate investing, believe in personal responsibility, and taking control of your life and financial destiny, you're in the right place. This is episode number 411, and my guest today is Ryan Scialabba. Many real estate investors that find success end up getting trapped in what I call self-employed. They're not business owners or entrepreneurs, they simply own a job. The fact is, most everyone that starts in real estate investing does it with the hope for not only financial freedom, but time freedom as well. If you do everything in your business, you can't ever leave your business. If you go on vacation, your business suffers. If you spend more time with family, your business suffers. If something happens to you, your business stops. Today we talk about building your business from a one-man or one-woman band to a team structure, as well as how to get started with that process. You deserve more freedom. Let's talk about how to get it. Please help me welcome Ryan to the show. Hey Ryan, welcome to the show.
Hey man, how we doing?
Good, good. Excited to have you on today.
Yeah, really excited to be here.
Yeah. You know, we were talking beforehand and kind of came up with the topic of building your team. And I know this is something you're passionate about because you've built a team. I built a team. And I coach and mentor a lot of people. And we talk often about this, about how you don't want to become a self-employed, right? A lot of real estate investors, even if they do kind of, quote, make it, they're doing deals, making some money, a lot of times they just get pigeonholed to doing everything themselves, and they don't get the lifestyle component that they wanted when they got into this business from the get-go, right? I mean, you've seen that too, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so many people, either want to get started in entrepreneurship or, young, early, or they're working a corporate job for so long, and then they just quit and they buy themselves a job, but they never figure out how to get themselves, through each level to where they're not working for themselves 10 years later going, man, I probably should have just hung out, in the office and had a little bit easier of a life.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be a great topic. So, hey, before we dive in, for those that don't know you, why don't you tell us about your background? Tell us a little bit more about who you are.
Yeah, so I'm Ryan Scialabba. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 25 years old. I'm a young guy. I'm the young guy on the block. I got started back in real estate, though, when I was 19 years old. Through my dad, so 6 years ago now. What happened was, and I have to kind of go back to really but I'll try to keep this tight here. Yeah. Growing up, my dad worked for the airlines, for U.S. Airways, and a lot of people out there remember U.S. Airways as an airline that no longer exists. But back in 04, 06, they went through 2 bankruptcies in 18 months, and I basically watched my dad go from super comfortable, very happy, loved his job. Like, he was that guy that didn't care about money as long as he could pay the bills and we could have fun. Yeah. And that bankruptcy, well, the first one, they lost their pay, everything. So he was getting paid now less than what he was getting paid in 1987 when he started. Well, the second bankruptcy, they lost their pensions, and then the stock crashed, and so they lost their 401ks. So now, I'm a part of this just kind of like turmoil here and stress, where he basically felt like he had to restart and didn't know what he wanted to do. So during that process, he spent a lot of time, really drilling into my head. You got to learn how to become resourceful and self-efficient. You got to learn how to, put food on the table on the side, things like that. So throughout high school, we flipped a lot of cars and dirt bikes and speakers and all kinds of stuff. He did send me. I went off to college to play football, get an education. I went to a fantastic school, but it just was not for me. I mean, I was just being pulled such a different way. So for my birthday there, I was at sophomore year in college, he got me tickets to a flipping seminar, which was Fortune Builders, and we ended up maxing out credit cards, home equity line. My parents were terrified. I mean, it was the last bit of money that we really had at the time to get into that education. It wasn't only for he said it was for him, but I knew it was really for me, and it was for us. And so we set off to go build this business together. And 6 months in, I still hadn't. It was like 5 months in, still hadn't had a deal yet, but finally got a house under contract. Ended up doing my first wholesale deal for $6,000 right before I would have had to have reported back to college. But we had made a bet that if I got a deal done before I reported back, I could take a year off and pursue real estate.
Okay.
So, I got my real estate license, just started crushing out deals. I had done, what did we do? I think we did like 6 or 7 deals in the next 45 days, paid back the investment, and it was just, we were on cloud 9.
That's awesome.
But October 2013, I actually ended up losing my dad in a motorcycle accident, just like out of the blue on the way home from work. And, if your life just turns upside down. And it's a little bit easier to talk about now because I've probably told the story about 1,000 times, and it's really my driving fuel today. But from there, man, it was like I had a lot of really hard decisions, and I was lost for quite some time, and so I got into some bad stuff just to cover up pain, and was going through a lot of personal things. I was broke as hell, so was living on friends' couches and trying to make the real estate work, doing everything I could to not go get a job, and I did that. Yeah. But it was a lot of struggle, and then lead up into 2014, I started rehabbing, having lots and lots of trouble. My lender made more money than me on my first deal, and then I ended up making really good money on my next 2 deals. And so I was like, okay, cool, put that money aside and start marketing, things like that. So I ended up getting this deal under contract, 2015, where I meet my now partner as he was building a house across the street. And we were going after the same deal, so I messaged him on Facebook. We didn't really know each other. I messaged him on Facebook. I was like, "Hey, man, how about we not cut each other at the knees and we negotiate and figure out a way to make this deal work." So we ended up meeting down at the house, going out, drinking beers. 30 days later, we had become friends. We bought 2 houses together, and Urban Capital was born in May of 2015. So. Now, fast forward, and I'm sure this is where the team building will come into play here in a minute, but fast forward, 2017, we had our first $1 million net profit year, which was just, it was the goal I've had since I was 16, to do $1 million in business, and this year, we're already going to do that by June. So it's
that's awesome, man.
With a full team in place. So it's been quite a journey.
If you're an active real estate investor already doing deals and looking to double or triple your business, you should consider joining the Investor Fuel Real Estate Investor Mastermind. We're a small group of investors that share our best practices, tips, and tricks with one another in an effort to all win. We limit our membership to only 1 to 2 members per market, so everyone shares their knowledge, tips, and tricks openly and honestly. Our members include some buying 1 to 2 houses a month, up to some of the most respected investors and leaders in the real estate investing industry, some of which have personally done over 1,000 deals. If you'd like to be considered for our invitation-only world-class mastermind, please visit investorfuel.com to request your personal invitation. Our next meeting is coming up quickly. Go to investorfuel.com now to learn more.
Born in May of 2015. So now fast forward, and I'm sure this is where the team building will come into play here in a minute, but fast forward 2017, we had our first $1 million net profit year, which was just, it was the goal I've had since I was 16, to do $1 million in business. And this year, we're already going to do that by June. So it's
that's awesome, man. With
a full team in place. So it's been quite a journey.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, thanks for sharing your story. And you guys are primarily rehabbers, right?
Yeah, my partner always jokes and says, we're a construction company that also buys houses.
Yeah. That's awesome. So yeah, let's talk about when you build a team. Maybe you could just share a little bit about your team. Started with you, you and your dad, obviously, and then it was you, and then you found a partner, and then where did you guys go from there? Talk about your growth, because it's really been about 2 years, right? So how's that changed?
Coming up on 3 years, which is pretty crazy to really think about it. Well, so while it was me, while it was just myself from 2013 to 15, I was mostly wholesaling, and I had a good, reliable GC that I could trust when I was rehabbing, but I was only doing one at a time.
Yeah.
And so that was sustainable while I was marketing and trying to find other deals. But we ended up having a falling out, and I thought it was, you know, him back in the day, and now I know it was my arrogance and my naivety, you know, taking a lot of things for granted. But like we do
Yep.
when we're starting out. So once Arch and I partnered up in 2015, he had a lot of the construction knowledge he had built. That's what he grew up and he was around, but he was having a lot of hard time finding houses. I was having a hard time, obviously, getting rehabs going to where I could keep, you know, 2 or 3 going at a time. I couldn't even do that. So I was still wholesaling stuff off. And basically what we do is we started like everyone else does. And, you know, we bought 2 houses at once. I don't know if everyone starts like that, but we bought 2 houses at one time and we patched them together, man. We had a high-end house and we had a low-end house, and we were using low-end guys to on the high-end house,
right,
and just
yep.
anything we could to get that rehab done. We did them. We did well. We made money on them. And then the big hit for us was we actually wholesaled some land. So we ended up wholesaling some lots, and we made a really, really nice chunk of change. We ended up making 60 grand on a wholesale deal, and that was like, okay, now it's time to invest, you know, in our business. Let's decide, what do we want to do? And there wasn't really like lifestyle involved in that at the time. We just knew we wanted to build the biggest, baddest business that we could and be number one in Pittsburgh on the rehab front. So we took that money and then we just invested it into marketing. And next thing you know, we started buying houses real heavy. The MLS was really hot back then, and since I'm a licensed agent, we didn't have a lot of marketing costs, and we just rock and rolled. And then we found that we knew that rehabbing was going to be our biggest problem. So we started building out our construction systems and processes and team, you know, first.
Right.
Because we knew down the line that was something that would separate us from everybody else. So, you know, how we were going to rehab these houses, what we were going to put in them, the whole 9 yards, really the foundations I had learned from fortune builders, we just turned those things up a notch. Yeah. And started building that out.
That's great. Especially where you're at, right? Because you're in Pittsburgh, a lot of old houses there. A lot of you know, in Dallas where I'm at, there's old houses, but not that old. I mean, they're 30, 40. Mm-hmm. There's some 50-year-old. There's some old houses here. But yeah, we're not rehabbing stuff that was built in the 20s. I mean, talk about some of the houses that maybe how old some of the houses are that you rehab.
Yeah, I mean, we've done houses all the way back to 1890.
Wow.
You know, and so a lot of stuff we're dealing with is the biggest problem is our price point, and then the construction that has to match it, right? So let's say we're buying a house for 60 grand. It's only worth 160, but you need an $80,000 budget there.
Yeah.
But you're trying to do it on 40 or 50.
Right.
And it just doesn't. You get lucky every once in a while, but it just doesn't work. So we niched out to where, yeah, we only do houses built after 1950. And those are our, you know, $25 square foot rehabs.
Okay.
And then we do gut jobs, full gut jobs. And we don't do anything in between anymore, because that's where we lose money every single time.
Right. Okay.
So we figured out that niche. And then our first hire was actually a project manager, because, you know, I was doing well, you know, filling the funnel for what we could. And so then we hired a project manager, and we hired an animal, and someone that we were not prepared for whatsoever. We thought we were, but we weren't. So we were paying this guy $100 grand a year. We hadn't even paid ourselves, obviously, a single penny. Yeah. So we started paying this guy $100,000 a year, worth every single penny. I mean, we still have a great relationship with him today. He's project managers on our larger developments for builders, for another building company now. But basically, he only lasted with us for 3 months, and it wasn't that he couldn't cut it. It was that we couldn't cut it.
Couldn't keep busy enough.
We just, as much of a system as we thought we had, we had nothing. I mean, nothing, you know, and we thought we were doing really well. He literally, I'll never forget the day. And he's an older guy, you know. They say get yourself an old gray with a lot of experience that'll whip you into shape, you know. He was sitting back at the desk, and he just goes, "I don't know how the heck you guys do this." And I was like, "What, Gare?" And he's like, "You guys are either dumb, blind, or you just have no idea what's going on in your business." And I was like, "Maybe all three." And he was like, "Gents, I'm leaving, but I've got, you know, 3 or 4 weeks left here with you. I'm going to give you enough time." He goes, if you're willing, I'm going to put some things in place, and we're going to change the ship around." So we did, and that changed our whole entire mindset on what actual systems and processes were. And so then we went project manager lists for almost a year. And then, so this was about a year ago now. Like, everything happened so fast, but this is last summer, spring, summer, we hired everybody. I mean, we hired office manager / bookkeeper role. And then what ended up happening was our best GC in Pittsburgh that we had ever had was actually going out of business. And so we ended up acquiring them. And it was the best move we ever made, because this came with 4 guys that we called the A team. So we got them all at cost, and, you know, we got a project manager. And this was the scariest thing, you know, that obviously we had done, basically acquiring a construction company. But to this day, it was the greatest move. And so now it's office manager, project manager. We have 12 guys on the construction team now. So we build out teams of 3s and 4s, and then I have an acquisition manager as well. So we're just lean and mean, as we like to say.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's talk about with people that are listening right now, if they're going to build their team out. Let's talk about the importance of kind of your vision. So a lot of people that might be listening right now, we have a lot of veteran folks that listen to the show too, but let's just say we're talking to the person that's new or newer, and they like the idea of getting into real estate investing, or maybe they're doing some deals right now. But everybody wants to eventually be sitting on a beach collecting paychecks, and if it's not ever like that for most people, right? But the lifestyle part is real, right? We get into this because we want more out of our life. We want financial freedom. We want freedom of time. But a lot of people seem to forget that vision when they start their business, like, because they're just trying to do whatever they can to make it work, and so they don't really focus on their vision so much as they just get in the weeds and I got to make this work. Vision is kind of secondary. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think if you're first starting out, the biggest thing I want every new investor to disregard is deal volume. When you're first starting out, if you can go and do 2 wholesales a year and they're $50,000 a piece, $100,000 a piece, like, stockpile that money. If you want to build a business, deal volume does not matter. Right. If you're looking at profit per deal and things like that, obviously that makes more sense. But I think that throws people off a lot right to start with. I got to go do 100 deals a year because that's the sexy thing. And for most people, that's not very attainable. Right. And for most people, like me being one of them, I don't want to do 100 deals a year. I would pull my hair out.
Yeah. It's not sexy for anybody. Even the people doing it, it's not sexy.
I think it's admirable. I'm like, man, that's a lot of moving parts, Yeah. So my biggest thing is you got to look at just the overall lifestyle that you want. I love to travel. That was my biggest thing. If I could run a business and travel as much as I possibly can, that's what I want to do, because I know that's not realistic once I get married and have kids and things like that. I know that's going to slow down. So I just want to be able to afford like a very, very comfortable life. Go to dinner when I want, things like that. Really, I'm pretty modest and humble when it comes to. I'm not flashy. Right. But travel is a very, very big thing for me, and never having to look at my bank account. That is like my goal. I just don't want to have to look at my bank account before I go do something. So, like, my lifestyle is obviously simple. Yours, whatever you want it to be. I think you should write it out. Frame it, put it in front of you, and then put it away. when you're first starting out, I know this is, this is unconventional, but when you're first starting out, you're going to have all these big aspirations. I think you write all those things down and you don't look at them for 3 or 4 years. Because what will happen in 3 or 4 years is you'll go back and you'll pull them out of that bin, and it'll cause you to realize all the work and all the things that you do have that you forgot you wanted. And then what that does is that allows you to kind of calibrate and set, new goals. But so I don't believe in looking at that every single day.
Okay.
But if you do take your lifestyle and you begin to put more and more pieces of that into your life every day, I think that's more realistic than saying, I want to spend 6 months a year on the beach. Meanwhile, you're not even making $100,000 a year in your business.
Right.
I think you need to chunk it down. I want to get to the beach this year because the business paid for it. And then next year, recalibrate, set new goals towards your ultimate lifestyle down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So talk about the importance of, just maybe talk in your experience, what happens to some people that aren't thinking about their lifestyle, but they just get overwhelmed with just trying to make the business work, and therefore they never get any of the lifestyle piece.
Well, specifically real estate, like investing, rehabbing, you buy a deal. Now you got to renovate that deal, and then you got to sell it. If you're a one-man show, and you have to manage all the back office of that and then do the books for it too. Right. There's 1,000 to 1,200 pieces to that thing at the end of the day. But while you're doing that, you have to go then find another deal. So what you do is you put yourself on that loop, forever. And then, if you invest enough, or if you get the fortitude to go ahead and buy 2 deals or 3 deals at once, it feels like it multiplies. And so now you feel deeper in the weeds. And the biggest thing is to, get on top of that if you can, and decide if you're going to invest in a business or invest in a payday. And we talked about this a little bit before. If you're investing in a payday, there are many times I wish I could go back and do 1 deal at a time or 2 deals at a time, 3 or 4 a year, $80K a piece, sweet. But we wouldn't hit those $80K deals unless we did 10 other $20 and $30K deals. It's a multiplication of efforts and acts at that place. So I think you got to get on top of it and invest in that hire. So if you have, basically my metric is if we can put 6 months in the bank for that hire, all you're risking is 60 to 90 days. Whatever your probation period is your risk when you're hiring, right? So that if you're able to risk that and pretend that money isn't there, it's already away, then why not hire that A player and see where their business takes you in that 90 days or 6 months? And then you just keep doing that forever.
Right. Yeah, it sounds like you had the kind of foresight to say, when you get some money, to say, I'm going to invest this back in the business. I mean, a lot of real estate investors don't necessarily do that. A lot of people are taught you got to plow back into advertising, which you do, right? You got to continue to find new leads. But you knew that you needed to invest in your team. Like, now we got to bring somebody on, or obviously you acquired a construction company, things like that. But talk about the importance of kind of having a deal pipeline, because you can't just go out and blow all your money without having some cash in the pipeline, right? Because you're just going to run out of money. Yeah.
I mean, there's like a pyramiding to inventory, right? That for some reason I don't hear about this very often, but if you're buying 3 or 4 deals at a time, you better be working on 6 to 8 and selling 3 to 4 if you want a consistent, 6-figure revenue or profit at the end of the year.
Yep.
If you want $1 million, you better be, buying 5 to 6, working on 12 to 15, selling 5 to 6 at a time.
Yep.
So you're constantly thinking in terms of that pyramid, and we learned this the hard way. I still can't find a lot of information about this today, and maybe it's because I didn't make it through college. Maybe they teach you this in college, like to find real financials behind a business, but I didn't learn those things.
They don't teach you that in college.
Okay.
They teach you how to go work for somebody else ultimately.
Yeah. So we learned it the hard way, we learned about, inventory and cash projections after we were broke, like broke in the business, broke millionaires or whatever. It's like you're paying for this marketing, you're paying for these deals, and you're not seeing a return for 6 to 9 months. So you better be rolling things in on top. And the way that and since this is on video, I can actually do this, but it's ebbs and flows, and it always is. But as you have more inventory, that ebb and flow becomes higher and higher, so you have more and more in your bank account. But if you're hiring, what you're doing now is you're creating a monthly nut, that overhead that ebb and flow cannot drop below. And so if you can figure out how to project for that early on, it allows you to make better hiring decisions, like timing wise. And that's what we've learned really over the last 2 years is having that money in the bank, understanding how your cash flow cycle is, and then making hires based on that.
Yeah.
It lets you know, it tells you when you need it,
Right. Let's talk about who to hire first. Where do people go? I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could do it. Right?
Yeah.
Some people hire for their weaknesses. Some people hire for their strengths. What are your thoughts?
Right. So the typical way to go about this is the E-Myth pyramid, right? Technician, manager, entrepreneur. So you look at, say you take an organizational chart and you look at, 5 roles in a rehabbing business, and you look at all the low level $10, $12 an hour tasks. You say, okay, how do I get these things off my plate so that I can then get up to a managerial level, then to an entrepreneurial level? If you're a singular person in a business and you don't want a partner, don't have a partner, weren't lucky like me to basically find your work wife, then that's the route that you're probably going to go. But either way, if you're going to be a rehabbing business, and I don't speak outside my lane, there's 2 sides of the business. It's marketing, financing, operations, and construction. And it is that black and white, because it's 2 businesses within the business. And so, I'm a firm believer that you should know every role, and you should know it well before you hire it. I don't think that you should stay in that role because you're probably not the best person for it, but you definitely should know it, because we went through that, and we still go through that today. If you're going to be one person, I think that you have to figure out or know what you're good at first, and then hire out those lower level tasks. Decide which side of the business you want to be on ultimately, but realize that if you're an acquisition person and you're really good at that, you should put an A player in place that fills your pipeline while you go learn and get really dang good at construction and project management. And then you hire an A. Now you can afford it because your pipeline's full. Now you understand the needs and the qualities of a really high-end project manager. You hire that out, and then ultimately now you get to be on your side of the business if you want, or you're managing the oversight of your small little 3-man team.
Right, that's good. Yeah.
And I, that's very attainable. That's the way our business looks like, except I have a partner on the other side as well. So we both sit on top of that organizational chart, if you will.
How does it help to have a partner? I mean, we've talked about this on the show many times before about there's a lot of value in having a partner, right? I mean, there's lots of responsibilities in this business that you can clearly split up, whether it's, like you said, construction or the day-to-day business operations, sales side of the business, acquisition side of the business. There's some really clear divisions to be able to split this business up. But what are your thoughts on that? Obviously, you have a partner, so I know you believe in partnerships.
Yeah.
So
I do and I don't, because I've heard and I've seen the bad sides of it, where just from a mental capacity or a mindset standpoint, 2 people are not destined to work together right from there.
Yeah. And
that's really where I think it all has to start. You have to have the same vision, the same overall mindset. But I think really like tenacity, work ethic, and Arch will get a kick out of this when he listens to it, but like same amount of baggage because so that was like one of his first questions, is, hey, what kind of baggage you got? Do you do you have a wife? Do you have kids? Do you have dogs? Like, what do you got? Because he wanted to know, are you committed to 100-hour work weeks until we hit $1 million a year, or are you only going to be able to work 9 to 3? He's like, because I'm crazy, I'm going to work 100-hour weeks, and so I want to be matched. And I was like, well, I work 110, so let's go for it. But
awesome.
but we clicked on that level, and that really has been the driving factor through to where we can get through anything. It's like he's the yin to my yang. What I don't want to do, he'll do, and what he doesn't want to do, I take care of. And when it comes to management decisions, it's like weird, man. We like had that just inherent trust in each other to make those decisions.
Yeah, that's great.
From the beginning. But
that's rare, but that's awesome.
I think I hit $1 million in a one, and I know he thinks the same. But my biggest thing, yes, is just that mental tenacity, that mindset, and that long-term vision. You got to lay everything out up front, and when it comes down to it, if you're not happy, you got to cut bait, and maybe you're better off getting a new partner or going off on your own. But if you don't love what you're doing, or you don't love who you're doing it with, then why are you doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you build this team out, one thing that you always have to be careful of is that you can continue to pay for them. You can continue to pay for that growth. And I know we talked about this a little bit before. You guys have had some challenges before. All of us have, right, with cash flow. So let's talk a little bit about the importance of kind of managing cash flow as you build your business, so that you can continue to pay people on time, continue to reinvest in advertising, and you don't have to like make decisions to start cutting it up. Because honestly, once you start making those decisions, it's a little bit of a downward spiral. Like things start to spiral out of control. So talk about the importance of managing cash flow. Yeah,
I mean at this point in time, the hardest decisions to make are the ones that are based on not having money in the bank, right? When you need to make a business decision that's going to solve a problem or push forward, but you don't have the money in the bank to do it. And that causes a stress. How do you put your head down on the pillow at night when you got $76 in your bank account and you got to pay $10,000 worth of construction work tomorrow? So that's the bottom of the downward spiral that we've been in multiple times up to this point. But as far as cash flow, when you get into a rehab deal, I think what people don't realize until they're already into it is, they start out, let's say they borrow hard money. They got to put money into the deal up front. Then they got to put money in to get construction started. And then let's say they go over budget, right? So now you put, let's say, $4 to $5 grand down, $4 to $5 grand to get construction started, and then you go $4 to $5 grand over budget. What happens is a lot of times in that very first deal, those people don't have 15 grand in the bank to push that deal through, so it just stalls. But if they borrowed properly, let's say private money or something like that, they don't realize that pain on the first deal. They had private money. So then what happens is they are cushioned now until they have 2 or 3 deals going, and they have to go borrow hard money on 2 and private money on 1. And now that cash flow is triple, or I should say triple negative. Now they're $45,000 out, and they're thinking, oh my God, we're going to lose everything. So the stress heightens.
Right.
And then if you're 10 deals in, this happened to us in 2016. We had 10 rehabs going, and then all of them went. We thought we were staggering them nice and tight to where the money would flow through. But, one fell behind, one pushed forward. Basically, at the end of the day, it was the scariest thing ever. We didn't even realize we had, $150,000 to our names in our business. But you better believe it was out and it was already spent, and we didn't know it was there. And so now you're just like, your business stops until you sell houses.
Right.
Or at least, in your head it does, or it absolutely has to. And so,
well, sometimes you start to make decisions like, well, we can't advertise this month, or we're going to have to let somebody go because we can't afford them.
Right.
And those have long-term implications, right?
Yeah. And so that's really, really it's just stressful and you can't make good business decisions. So
Yeah.
if you understand that there's money in running a business, that there's money in doing these deals, even if you're borrowing 100% private money, which we do, and we still have 10 or 15 grand at the apex of a deal, we still have money out with interest payments, insurance, utilities, and construction overages. You still have money in. Now you spread that across 15, 20 rehabs going at a time, you're $500,000 out. You know it's going to come back now because you went through that cycle before. So long story short, now telling you that story, you can plan for this beforehand. So, you know, if you're going the business route, the, you know, rehabbing, construction, hiring, building a long-term business route, you have to keep a healthy operating account in order to get through these ebbs and flows as you're changing out inventory.
Yeah, for sure. And do you guys do something different now to manage like projected cash flows? I know early on it's hard because especially if you're rehabbing, and especially if you're sometimes when you're in the Northeast or older parts where your rehab takes longer, you know, you celebrate today because you got a house, but that cash isn't coming back in for 4, 5, 6+ months sometimes. Mm-hmm. So I found it helpful to start to project. I think I'm going to make 20 grand on this. I think I'm going to make 30 grand, whatever the number is, my projected cash flow, and just kind of project, I think I'm going to get it back in 4 months. So I could kind of have this distracted in Excel of like,
yep,
the time I bought it, how much I think I'm going to make from it, and when I think it's going to come back around, so that I can kind of project out when cash flows are coming in so that we know if we're going to get in a pickle or not.
Yeah. So we do two things. So I have an overall, you know, just income projection sheet for the year. Right. As we buy deals, I put it on the other end of the sheet, you know, again, 6 months out, 9 months out, 12 months out.
Right.
I don't do anything less than 6 months. If it's less than 6 months, it's a bonus, you know?
Right. Wow.
But so many things happen. So a lot of we're averaging 100, 110 days on our deals, but I don't want to think that money's coming back, so that I make business decisions that are long-term,
worst
not
case
short.
scenario. Yeah.
Yep. And then the second thing we do is we have this huge 8-foot by 8-foot board in our office, and it is awesome. And we track everything on it, you know, our purchases, the dates, how much money we're borrowing. Once it's in rehabbing, we have a 5-phase construction process. So across from that is how much money did we get back at closing? How much is held back? What draws did we get in correspondence with our phases? So basically my construction, you know, part of this board is like a large Gantt chart. Where are we at on progress and where are we at on cash flow in the deal? And then we have our selling side. So then down on the bottom, say, what's it listed at? What's it under contract at? Gross profit, you know, or CB, cash back in the bank, net profit. And then that thing just runs and flows and runs and flows.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then everyone has their own board, you know. So acquisitions has his board for everything. Then we have a metrics tracking sheet on Excel, because that's more like granular versus just seeing appointments, appointments, contracts, closings, and then project managers. He has his own board as well. Basically, it's just a fire board is all it is. What fires do we have to put out? So as visual as everything is, it's also backed up, you know, by Excel and Dropbox and things like that. And Trello. We love Trello.
Yeah, awesome. I used to use Trello. We use Asana now, but used to use Trello. So awesome, man. Well, what advice would you give to people real fast here for people that are just getting started? We just threw out a lot of information. You gave a lot of good advice. If somebody is not necessarily just getting started, they're doing a couple deals here and there, but they want to ramp up, what should they? How can you kind of summarize what we talked about today so they can go apply it?
So if you are a singular person right now, and you want to get to the point where you're running 3 or 4 deals at a time, I would go ahead and market like crazy, invest that money, buy 3 or 4 cherries, not 3 or 4 slim deals, 3 or 4 cherries. And so, you know, your marketing costs will be a little bit higher on the front, but buy 3 or 4 cherries where you're going to make 35, 40, 50 grand on those deals. And so that now you have some inventory, you can go ahead and hire some help on the construction side, whether that is a GC that project manages a job for an extra 10% of his budget, or you go and get some outside help, subcontracted project management work that allows you to get some of that off your plate. And then now you're starting that cycle while you're the recycle, I should say, while you're in your rehabbing process of being able to market again and get some deals pushed out. So you want to start that cycle as quickly and as often as you can on the front end. And then obviously, get them on the market as quickly as you can so you can reinvest that cash and then make a long-term hire at that point. But have at least 6 months in the bank, to make a hire, and realize that your risk tolerance is however long your probation period is for hiring somebody. If it's a 90-day probation period, that's all your risk tolerance is for making a hire. So for most people, that's only $10,000 to $15,000 maximum as far as a risk tolerance goes. For sales guys, there's no risk. If you're paying them on draw or on commission, there's minimal risk. So just get over the fear, jump off the ledge if that's what you want, and then go have fun with it.
Awesome, man. Hey, if folks want to learn more about you or want to look you up, where do they go?
Go and find me on Facebook.com/Urban Investor. If you type in Ryan Scialabba, which is SCIALABBA, all you have to do is type in SCI and I'll probably pop up. You can also find me on Instagram at Urban Investor as well. And then our website's www.homebuyersofpittsburgh.com. That's where you'll see all of our flips and keep up to date on what we're doing.
Awesome, man. We'll have those links down below in the show notes here. Thanks for joining us today, my friend.
Well, man, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your story.
Anytime.
Yeah. Everybody, hey, this is episode number 411. We appreciate you joining us today. We're going to keep these episodes coming at you. If you haven't yet, please give us a rating, a positive rating preferably, on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play. Gosh, we're all everywhere. Anywhere you can listen to a podcast at, we're at. YouTube, you can subscribe to us, or of course you can watch us or even listen to us on flipnerd.com. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you next time. If you're an active real estate investor already doing deals and looking to double or triple your business, you should consider joining the Investor Fuel Real Estate Investor Mastermind. We're a small group of investors that share our best practices, tips, and tricks with one another in an effort to all win. Real estate investing can be a lonely business for successful real estate investors, but it doesn't have to be. Investor Fuel members meet 4 times a year, but we talk to each other 365 days a year, and we focus on improving the profitability of our businesses, improving the quality of our lives. That's why we do this, right? And making an impact on those around us so we can truly leave a legacy. We limit our membership to only 1 to 2 members per market, so everyone shares their knowledge, tips, and tricks openly and honestly. Our members include some buying 1 to 2 houses a month, up to some of the most respected investors and leaders in the real estate investing industry, some of which have personally done over 1,000 deals. If you'd like to be considered for our invitation-only world-class mastermind, please visit investorfuel.com to request your personal invitation. Our next meeting is coming up quickly. Go to investorfuel.com now to learn more. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the FlipNerd.com Investing Show. If you're not yet an elite member of FlipNerd, you're missing out. We have tons of great training, including a new detailed masterclass published each month and live training webinars with experts twice a month. Plus, you'll get access to all of our archives, where we already have a growing library of masterclasses and other training videos. Elite members also get membership in our incredible online Mastermind group, where many of the top real estate investors from across the country, including many of the hundreds of guests I've had on the show in the past, are already members. Whether you're brand new, looking to get started, or a veteran, you simply must join today. I promise you won't be disappointed. To learn more or join today, please visit flipnerd.com/lab. That's flipnerd.com/lab. See you on the next show.